It's Mark again. And if you're a hobbyist like me, or if you work on cuckoo clocks for a living, you really need more than one stand. So in this video, I'm going to be building some stands. And like I told you, I don't really measure. I just estimate what I want. There are certain things that you do have to measure. And I told you in another video, in some clocks, the roof is 2 feet long. So these boards here have to be at least 2 feet long. So I'm going to make a bigger, I'm going to call this the head of the stand, this section right here. So I'm going to make a head that will accommodate a 2 feet pitch clock. And I really want to build 2 more stands because if you get to work on clocks, you get one that you are testing. Well, you want to be able to work on another one. So you really need more than one stand, or you're going to have to be taking that clock out of the stand. So because I have all the clocks that I do, I'm going to be building some more stands. Here, I cut this board at an angle, and it's 30 degrees. That is for this section right here. You want an angle that you attach that board to, because if it's a flat, it's not going to work. So you want it at an angle. So after I cut that angle, I'm measuring off, and I'm going to make it more than 2 feet. I'm going to make it 26 inches. I think that will accommodate for a bigger clock. So at the angle, I got my tape measure. At the angle comes in this way, from left to right, going down. So I'm going to measure 27 inches off, and I'm going to cut this board. Now with this board cut, you see how much longer it is. It's quite a bit longer. Now this piece right here, you want fairly long. I'd say at least 6 to 10 inches, because it has to be able to provide support when it's attached to this top board. So I'm just going to estimate what I want. Now what attaches this board to this board here is a door hinge. And I don't like using the screws that come with those door hinges. I'll use sheetrock screws. The screws that come with the door hinges, they're too long. And I just came back from Home Depot, and one door hinge, the cheapest door hinge, costs like $2.68. Or you can get a contractor's pack of 12 for like 24 bucks. 6 door hinges are going to cost you around $18. So 18 times 2 is $36. Or you can get a whole pack for 24 bucks. Do I need 12 packs? No, but I'm going to make a few stands, and I'll use these door hinges later on in life. Now it's very important where you put that door hinge. Here's a tapered section, and you want it on the opposite side all the way up. So I'm going to put it right here. So there's half of the door hinge. And the reason I don't use the little bitty screws that come with the door hinge, you know, you're talking expensive clocks here. or can be expensive clocks. If you have a little bitty screw, over time those things could break, fall out, your hinge could come apart, and I want to make this thing last. Here's the board that I chose. So now I need to screw that door hinge to the end of that board. And you want to make sure that you're paying attention to what you're doing, because I wasn't paying attention, and I got this on the wrong side. It's on the opposite side. This hinge needs to go on this side. Now I have it turned around where it needs to be. And by the way, the reason why I'm building these stands, because I don't want to clean up my mess from me redoing my floor until I finish using my chop saw. And that's why I'm doing it now. I could have picked up some more screws while I was at Home Depot. I've got plenty of screws, but they're too long, so I have to get out my Dremel and cut them off. But I got the main part done. Now you have to add these, and I'm making mine 5 inches, and I got some scrap OSB board. I had this laminated flooring, but I don't trust this laminated flooring. Anyway, you want these as wide as the board, and you want to screw them into the board. So that's what I'm going to do now. And I might do a little overkill, but I put 3 screws on everything I do. But as you can see, you have enough that will grab a hold of the roof. What you need to do now, and I won't do this until I get the next board, but it needs to have a hole in the center of this thing. That way your stand can swivel. And the reason why I don't do it now is because I want to be able to make sure it's exactly where I want it on the stand. The only reason I'm doing all this is because a few people keep asking me what the dimensions, how I made it, etc., etc. Here I got the main board that's going to screw to my breakfast bar. I screwed the top head down to that main board. And I got this part that's going to swivel clamped so I could drill a hole right down the middle. So that's what I'm doing now. So now I have the hole all the way through. I'm going to all thread bolt that fits all the way through, and I have a washer on it. And then I'm going to put another washer underneath, and then I'm going to put 2 nuts on. So now I have those 2 nuts on, but over time, with you swiveling this thing back and forth, those nuts could come off on you. So what you want to do, you want to take a set of pliers and put it on this top nut, set of pliers and put it on the bottom nut, and tighten them toward each other. That way they don't come loose. So that's what I'm doing now. When I say tighten them toward each other, I got a pair of vice grips. You should be using regular wrenches, but they're out in my shed and it's cold out. I don't want to go get them. So I got a pair of vice grips on the top nut. I'm taking a pair of vice grips, putting it on the bottom nut. I'm going to hold this set of vice grips, and I'm going to turn this set of vice grips toward that nut. So now they are locked together, and you could put Loctite on them if you're afraid that they might come loose on you. But tighten them toward each other. You can't really loosen them up unless you put a set of pliers on it. So now it's time to mount this to my breakfast bar. I'm able to get one screw in it all by myself. So now I'm going to put a level on it and make sure it's level before I put any more screws in. And you want to make sure that you got screws long enough that's going to go through both boards. And I probably shouldn't be doing this to my breakfast bar, but you know, it's my house, I'll do what the heck I want. It's got a little bit of play in it, so I'm going to put a shim in the back. So it goes away with that. I gotta figure out how much shim I need. I got some 1x4s. I'm going to need the 1x4s. I'm going to get a little outlet, because I want to cut my 1x4. So that will work once I put a screw in it. Took away most of the play. Again, you're working with, I want to say my clocks are expensive. They can be. How much do you love your clocks? As you can see, it swivels. That way you can see the rear of the clock, and you can turn it around to see the front of the clock without having to take the clock in and out of the stand. The last thing that I have to make is this piece right here. That way the arms lock into place. So I'm going to do that off camera, and I'm going to make it with a 1x4. Or I might make it with some OSB board that I have. Anyway, I'm going to make it off camera. I have a jigsaw, but this is easier. Putting the board on top of the frame here. That was so much easier than using a jigsaw. I will use my jigsaw to finish it up. But you want that line to be perfectly in the center of that board. The next step in this process is, where do you want to put this? Do you want it way up there, or do you want it in the middle? I'm going to put it about 1/3 of the way down. That way I can see the movement and everything. So I have to drill holes in the 2x4s to put bolts. Again, I told you I don't measure that much, but wherever I decided to put my first hole, which is 7 inches down, I want it in the same spot on the other board. That way the board slides back and forth easily. I screwed up when I was at Home Depot, because you have to have a bolt that goes from here all the way through, and then all the way through this, and you want an all thread bolt. Well, my bolts are too short. And I bought wing nuts for these bolts. However, in the meantime, this is what I'm going to do. I already had these bolts. They're not all thread. So I put a washer, and then I put a shim, and then the bolt comes through, you put a washer, and I got a regular nut. You want a wing nut, that way it's easier to grab a hold of and tighten. Voila. The last thing I need to do, because this thing is 22 inches out, just like the other one, I'm going to put braces. That way my $500,000 whatever clock doesn't come crashing to the floor. Voila! I have 2 working stands now. Like I said, I need some wing nuts on that bracket up there. This is a clock hopefully I'll be working on in the near future. It's a cuckoo quail clock. Alexander Fleeg made one of these things. GK sold these items from, I have GK ads from 1908 and on to about 1923, and every year they sold this style clock. I need to move my brace because I put it in the wrong spot. Let me do that real fast. And I skipped a step. Before you mount the braces on, you want to make sure that board's level. And I cut some of these off. But now it swivels. And I've discovered from doing this stand, because there's so much space now between the front of the movement and the board, if you don't do something, these things will fall off on you. So that's what the wire is for. I've got a wire going from here to the hook that is for the pendulum, for the topper, and the same way over here. Now you can push on it and it doesn't go anywhere. As I was saying with this clock is a special clock. I'm gonna have to look at my notes, but there's a lot of damage to this clock. They use this bar here to secure the case, so it's gonna take a lot of work. But I've never seen that pedal type for the quail. This is a cuckoo quail clock. And what is special about this clock, like I said, a friend of mine, his is a same style clock, but his movement is different, and it says AF on it, which is Alexander Fleeg. Now you can Google Alexander Fleeg and you will find an NAWCC posting. There's this guy that people say if anybody knows anything about it, it'll be him. I know who it is. I'm not going to mention his name. But he mentions Alexander Fleeg wasn't given credit that they deserve, that their clocks were high quality clocks, just like Beha, PHS, GHS, etc. They were in business. There's not a lot about them on the internet other than the NAWCC posting in my videos. But they were in business from 1880 to the early 1900s, like 1903, 1904, something like that. So it's very possible that George Cool did not make any clocks. They bought and sold clocks. It's very possible initially George Kuhl bought these clocks, the style clocks, from Alexander Flieg. But anyway, let me turn it around. This is not the correct topper for it, but you see those deer on it? This deer head needs its antler fixed, and this deer head needs its antler fixed. But that is the only damage other than it doesn't have the right topper on it. This topper here, I believe, is for a GK or American Cuckoo Clock Company topper. But this is a beautiful, beautiful cuckoo quail clock. And there was one that was on one of the sites that wasn't a cuckoo quail, but it had the same style case that sold for $1,045, and just for a plain cuckoo clock. So this has got bone hands on it, and so I'm gonna hire my friend Steve Fowler. He's gonna make me a topper, and he's gonna have to make me a set of antlers for these deer also. But when I get to this clock, it's gonna be a while before I get to this clock, but it's a very expensive, unique clock. And let me show you some GK ads real fast that show you what this topper is supposed to look like. Getting back to the stands, I was going to show you how to make another stand, but I found out most tables got ledges on them. I had this idea of making a stand where the bottom board, you would have a board, a 2x4, going underneath the table, and then you would have a slot in this 2x4 with a bolt that is secured into a 2x4. That way that board could slide up and down to accommodate for the workbench or table that you're working on. That way you don't have to use clamps. You could just, it would have a wing nut here. Again, that bolt would be permanently secured into the 2x4 that's laying on top of the table, coming through the slot that you put a wing nut on, and you could, you would have to make it, 15, 20 inches long, those boards. That way the stand doesn't come crashing down on you. But I think it could be done. Anyway, I need to make one more stand for over there, but now I have a stand that I could sit in a chair and work on a cuckoo clock. I got this little stool here that when I sit in it, I can see this clock just perfectly. It's got new toppers on it. These bellows tubes are original, but the toppers are new. It originally would have had trapezoid type toppers on it. It doesn't have all the chains on it. I got the weights. I don't have the correct pendulum for it. But anyway, I'll be working on this thing. The main thing I need to do is some casework, and again, I might have Steve Fowler do all that for me. He is a lot better woodworker than I will ever be. Let me show you that GK ad. Now, the only thing different is my deer face inwards, where these deer face opposite of each other. But the leaves and everything else is the same. And this is the kind of topper that it would take. the width and the height are the same. So, again, the only thing different is the deer, the way they face. But they both have the circle that they're standing on. Anyway, I hope y'all like this video. Leave me some comments. Give me a thumbs up and subscribe not only to my channel, but to everybody else's channel. And may God bless each and every one of you.